All right, guys, today we are going to be working in our workbooks, chapter 8.2. This starts on page 440. Okay, so today the topic is finding volume of cylinders. So up here it talks about example 1, a fish tank. They're trying to figure out how much space or how much water they can actually fill in here. So the volume is how much this water would take up in that space there. And if you're looking at the cylinder, as well as any prism, the formula is going to be V equals big B times H. Okay, now the big B stands for area of the base. So area of the base, whatever shape the base is. And H is going to be the height of the cylinder or the prism. So if we're looking at this one here, we see the area, or the base is actually a circle. So we have two circles for our cylinder. So to do this one, I figure out, well, how do I find the area of the base? Well, since the base is a circle, it'd be pi times radius squared. And then I just multiply it by the height. So V equals big B times H is the same thing as saying V equals pi r squared times H for cylinders. Okay, so let's go ahead and calculate this one. So I'm going to say V equals pi times the radius. Now if I look down here, I'm given this whole dimension across. That whole dimension, that's going to be our diameter. And I know to find the radius, I need to take this and cut that in half. So 24 divided by 2 is going to equal 12. So I'm going to say V equals pi times 12 squared times the height, which would be 48. All right, I'm going to go ahead and use my calculator, and I'm going to use the pi key. So just remember, we do have a pi key there. So pi times 12, and then I'm going to square it, and then times 48 equals. And let's say I round this to the nearest tenth, and that's going to be V equals 21714.7. So that's going to be 21,714.7, and for my label, I see it's in inches. But because this is a three-dimensional object here, and we're talking about volume, volume is going to be cubed. All right, so all our labels for volume are going to be cubed. All right, going down to the try it. Let's go down there. Same thing we're setting up here. This time, though, it says the area of the base of the cylinder is 78.5 inches squared. So we don't even have to do any extra work for that to figure out the area of the base. They're just saying that the area of that circle base is 78.5 inches squared. So when I start setting this up, V equals big B, area of the base. Well, they told us that right here. So I'm just going to say 78.5 multiplied by the height, which is 11. Okay, so if I do 78.5 times 11, and we get 863.5. Don't forget to put our label on it. So inches cubed. So the volume of the cylinder is 863.5 cubic inches. Cubic inches is another way to say inches cubed. Okay, so let's say we have another cylinder. And this cylinder is going to be a little bit shorter. All right, so let's say this one is only 8 inches. Okay, and let's say the diameter of that is going to be 14 inches. Go ahead and find the volume of this cylinder. Okay, example 2. The volume of the juice can is 300 milliliters, which is equal to 300 cubic centimeters. what is the radius of the can? All right, use 3.14 for pi and round your answer to the nearest tenth. So they're setting up here, they're saying V equals big B times H. Here's that formula, the pi r squared times the height. But what they're doing, though, is they give us the answer this time. So when they say 300 is your final answer, you're trying to work your way all the way down to the radius. Like you're trying to figure out what the radius of this can would be. So since you don't know the radius or the area of the circle there, it's pi r squared, but we do know times 14. Okay, so what I can do next is I'm trying to isolate this r. So I got to divide everything that's attached to it. So I got to divide by pi, divide by 14. Okay, I'm going to come over here, divide by pi times 14. All right, so let's go ahead and enter that in our calculator. So we're going to do 300 divided by, now because I have two pieces here on the bottom, I'm going to use parentheses to make sure that we do get the right answer. So I'm going to do parentheses, and they said use 3.14 for pi, so I'm going to go ahead and type in 3.14 times 14, closing parentheses, equals. And we see we do get what they say, r squared is equal to, that is approximately 6.82 because they've rounded it off. So r squared is approximately 6.82. Now that's not our final answer because we don't want to know what radius squared is, we want to know what just radius is. So to get that final answer, they go ahead and they take the square root of this because the square root of r squared is r. And if we take the square root of 6.82, so second, hit that x squared key for the square root, 6.82 equals, and we see it's rounded to about 2.6. Okay, 2.6. And then our label for that would be, because it's in centimeters, it's just 1 centimeter. It's not squared, it's not cubed. Okay, moving on. Let's go to example 3. Example 3 says, safety barrels are used on some highways to cushion cars on impact. If a city manager approves a purchase of 15 cubic meters of sand, how many barrels can be filled with sand? Use 3.14 for pi. All right, so what they did V equals big B times H. So pi r squared times H. Pi, they say diameter is 0.9 over here. So they cut that in half, and that's where the radius is coming from, 0.45. The height is 1.2. So that's where they multiply all that together, pi times 0.45 squared times 1.2. And then they get 0.76302. Now find the number of barrels that can be filled. Well, you had 15 meters of sand to begin with. So they take how much sand they had, 15, and they divide it by how much each barrel takes up, which was this amount. So 15 divided by 0.76302. And we see we can get about 19.7, which means he can only safely fill 19 barrels, not quite 20. So that's why the answer is 19. Okay, you go ahead and do the try it.